Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings and Yahoo for Saturday, July 27th. Now in this video we're going to cover the 10-game night slate. There is a 4-game early today, and I did make a video on that, so if you want to check that out, if you're planning to play the early slate for today, I would definitely appreciate it if you would check that video out. Pretty much just gave my thoughts, how I'm going to be going, or how I'm going to be attacking that slate with pitching, with batting. Pretty much the same thing I do in all my videos. But for this 10-game night slate, we'll talk about DraftKings and Yahoo. We'll look at pitching that I like. We'll talk about all the pitchers that I'm going to be playing. Then we'll look at some batters I like. We'll talk about some stacks that I'll be going to. And then towards the end of the video, for those of you that are interested in Bvp, we will cover some Bvp plays at the end of the video. But before we do get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below, so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. So starting off at the top of the pitcher-player pool today, we really have two standout options above the rest on this slate, Gerrit Cole and Mike Clevinger. Once you drop off from those two guys on DraftKings, your next most expensive pitcher is Anthony DeSclafani at $9,200, so that just kind of shows you that these two guys, Cole and Clevinger, are kind of head above the rest. So Cole gets a matchup against the Cardinals, and Clevinger gets a matchup against the Royals. I would say both are pretty favorable matchups. Cole's getting to face a Cardinals team that's really watered down, just not that great of a lineup right now. No Matt Carpenter, no Marcell Ozuna, and no Yadier Molina. There's going to be a lot of righties in this Cardinals lineup, most likely, and Gerrit Cole, pretty elite versus right-handed hitters. Versus lefties, I guess, is where he struggles more, but still he's very good versus lefties as well. One of the best strikeout pitchers in the league. Not much needs to be said here with Gerrit Cole. I think he's in a very favorable spot. I do like paying up for him today on DraftKings at $12K. There's a $600 difference between him and Clevinger. If we go over to Yahoo, though, there's a $10 difference. Cole is at $62 and Clevinger is at $52. I actually like saving the $10 and going down to Mike Clevinger. That $10 is going to come a long way when you're trying to pay up for better bats. Now, I'm sure I'm going to have some Cole on Yahoo, but if I'm just making one lineup, I think I'm going to save the $10 and play Clevinger over Cole. But on DraftKings, where they're kind of closely priced, there's only a $600 difference. Just give me Gerrit Cole for $600 more. Clevinger, though, I do really like it as well against the Royals. Just a very favorable spot. A Royals team that just not that good offensively, has some strikeouts in the lineup as well. Clevinger's already faced the Royals once this year and was very good against them. Had 33 DraftKings points, went 6 innings, only allowed 4 hits, no runs, 9 strikeouts. We could easily see Clevinger put up a similar performance to that today. So I do like him as well. Where him and Cole are closely priced, I prefer Cole. On Yahoo, for example, where there's a big discount, I think I'll take the discount and play Clevinger. But now finding an SP2 to play, that's where it gets pretty tricky. There's not much that I really like in this mid-range. Like, once you get past the two top guys, I don't really have a bunch of interest in, like, DeSclafani or Lester, Ponce de Leon, Eflin. These guys just aren't in favorable spots, and they're just too expensive, in my opinion. I guess my favorite guy would be Martin Perez against the White Sox, but on a slate where we want to pay up for Cole and Clevinger, it's going to be hard to fit Perez in as your SP2 when he's $8,800, so we're going to need to find some cheap plays. Once we get down like 7K and below, there's a couple guys that stand out. You got Steven Matz at home against the Pirates, who you could look to. Homer Bailey, I actually like a lot at home in Oakland against the Rangers. Very favorable spot for Homer Bailey. I like him on both sides. He's cheap on DraftKings at $6,700. And he's cheap on Yahoo as well at $31. So Homer Bailey, I don't think is that good of a pitcher, but this is a really favorable spot for him. Pitching at home in Oakland in a very favorable pitcher's park. He's going to be facing a Rangers team that strikes out a lot versus right-handed pitching. It's also a Rangers team that does struggle a bit on the road. This is a big ballpark downgrade for them. They're playing in their home park, and Globe Life Park is one of the best hitters' parks. Now they're going to have to travel to Oakland and play in O.Co., which is one of the more pitcher-friendly parks. So I do like Homer Bailey here. He's made 2 starts this year with Oakland ever since he got traded to Oakland. One came against the Seattle at home, and the other one in his last start on the road against Houston. He just got absolutely crushed. But in his first start at Oakland, he pitched against Seattle and was pretty good. 6 innings, allowed 7 hits, 2 runs, 6 Ks, got 21 DraftKings points. And like I said, in his last start against Houston, he got absolutely crushed, giving up 8 hits, 9 runs through 2 innings. I would expect Bailey to bounce back here. Much more favorable matchup, pitching in a great pitcher's park against a pretty poor offense. So I like him a lot as a cheap SP2. But there are some other guys you could consider, like Cal Quantrill. He's in a very favorable spot, pitching at home against the Giants, 6,600. I think you'd get a little bit more strikeout upside from Homer Bailey, so that's why I'm going to prefer Bailey. But Quantrill, for a cheap pitcher, is definitely in play. Same could be said for Sean Anderson against the Padres, 5,700. Padres are one of the highest strikeout teams versus right-handed pitching. And although Sean Anderson isn't much of a strikeout pitcher, still a pretty favorable matchup for him facing the Padres. And then the last guy I want to mention, depending on if he's going to be able to pitch deep into the game, Trevor Cahill is only 4,600 and is pitching against the Orioles. We don't know if he's going to be fully stretched out. He hasn't made a big league start in a while. It's been over a month since I think he's actually made a full start. Usually he's just been working out of the bullpen for the last couple of months. He's been working out of the bullpen. So I would imagine he's not going to be able to throw 80, 90 pitches, but if we can get confirmation that Cahill is going to be fully stretched out and going to be able to go 5 innings, throw 80 pitches, at only 4,600, he could definitely be a play as a cheap option against the Orioles. Pretty favorable matchup, obviously. Definitely a guy you could look to, but we need some clarity on his pitch count before we kind of roll the dice on him. So that's kind of where I'm looking to go to for pitcher today. I'm really mostly going to be spinning up for either Cole or Clevenger and then just playing a bunch of these different cheap guys. Cole and Clevenger are going to really be the guys I go heavy on the most. But now let's talk about some bats that we can look to. There's a couple teams that really stand out for me. The Indians versus Glenn Sparkman at 5.7 implied run total. Definitely a team I'm going to look to. Also the Twins, 6 implied run total against Ivan Nova, a team that I also am going to be looking to stack. So we'll start off with those two teams. Starting off with the Twins, I think they're in a great spot here against Nova. Nova was a guy that I actually played a lot of last slate when he was pitching against the Marlins, and it went pretty well. He threw a complete game, only allowed 4 hits, 1 run, got 5 strikeouts, got 31 DraftKings points. That was about the best possible spot that Nova could get pitching at home against the Marlins. But now he has to pitch against the Twins, which is probably one of the worst matchups for Nova. He has pitched against the Twins once this year and wasn't that great. 6 innings, allowed 7 hits, 4 runs, gave up 2 home runs. Nova is a guy that gives up a lot of home runs. This Twins team has so much power from the top of the lineup, even all the way down to the bottom. But the first 5 hitters, that's what I really like when looking to a Twin stack. Kepler, Polanco, Cruz, Rosario, Sano. Looking at the pricing, these guys are pretty expensive, but if you go with a cheap pitcher like Homer Bailey, it's going to allow you to fit in a couple of these guys. I really like Max Kepler today. He's one of my favorite plays. In the outfield at 5,100, I think he's a great option. On Yahoo, he is very favorably priced at only $16. He's going to be probably one of my highest owned hitters, I would imagine, on Yahoo at only $16. And the Twins, just as a team, are pretty cheap on Yahoo. I'll pull up their pricing real quick. Cruz is expensive at 23. Rosario, I guess, is kind of expensive at 20, but Kepler at 16, pretty cheap. If Marwin Gonzalez cracks the lineup, he's only $12. He's very cheap. Jorge Polanco at $15, I really like. Sano, 19, not too bad of a price. Jonathan Scope, a lot of power, and he's only $12. Definitely some guys you could look to. Jason Castro catches again, $12, another cheap bat you could look to. But the 2 guys that really stand out on Yahoo from the Twins are definitely Kepler and Polanco. I like Polanco a lot as well on Yahoo at $15. On DraftKings, it's a bit tougher to fit a full Twin stack in there with this pitching unless you're finding some really cheap bats. We will talk about some cheap bats that I like, but if you want to go with Kepler, Polanco, Cruz, Rosario, if you want to play those 4 guys on DraftKings, you're going to have to either sacrifice at pitching or you're going to have to find a lot of cheap bats. So for that reason, I'm only going to include Kepler from the Twins in my 5 on DraftKings. Do want to give you some value, and some of that value that I like comes from the Indians with their 5.7 implied run total against Glenn Sparkman. 2 guys that really stand out for cheap are Jason Kipnis at 3,600 and Jake Bauers at 3,300. I like both of those guys on DraftKings. Both of them obviously are very cheap and allow you to get in a couple more Twins bats with their pricing. On Yahoo, I'm going to be including Kipnis in my 5. He's very cheap at second base. He's only $12. Definitely a guy that I like over there. You can definitely play Bauers as well. Bauers is at first base, and he's only $13. So you can look to him, but I'm just going to include Kipnis for the 5 since I really like him, and I prefer Polanco at 15 over Bauers at 13. But pretty much how I feel is I'm going to be stacking up the Twins, and I'm going to be really stacking up the Indians as well. Those 2 teams are going to be my 2 stacks that I really like. We'll just go ahead and transition into stacks since we pretty much gone over my 5 plays. I didn't really talk about the matchup for the Indians that much, but obviously against Glenn Sparkman, this is definitely a spot that we really like. Glenn Spartman has actually been better lately. He's been pitching somewhat well. That start against the White Sox, he was actually really, really good. Through a complete game, 5 hits allowed, 0 runs allowed, 8 Ks, 41 DraftKings points. But he did start against the Indians in his last start, and he kind of came back down to earth. Went 5 2/3 innings, allowed 9 hits, 5 runs, gave up 2 home runs. I would expect a similar performance like that. He's definitely going to give up a couple home runs here. He's going to give up some runs as well. So I like the Indians bats. They do give you some value with Bowers and Kipnis, both very cheap. Spartman's been giving up home runs all year, doesn't really get strikeouts, and we know how good this Indians team is, how much power they have, especially like the top 5, 6 hitters. Once you get to the bottom of the lineup, not as much power there, but the 1 through 6, that's what I really like from the Indians. But yeah, Indians I really like as a stack. Twins I really like as a stack. Some other teams that we could potentially look to, some lefties versus Zach Eflin, definitely a spot I like to target. The Braves don't have a ton of lefties. Right now their projected lineup only has 4 lefties in it. Freeman, Markakis, Albies, and McCann. But the righties are pretty tough outs as well, so it's not a really good matchup for Eflin. I expect he struggles here. So I do like a Braves stack if you want to go to the Braves. They are definitely a team you can look to target. Obviously I like the Twins and I like the Indians. Maybe some bats in this game between the Brewers and the Cubs. John Lester versus Chase Anderson. These Cubs bats are somewhat cheap. Like Schwarber really stands out at 4,200. Not much value after that though. You got Baez, Bryant, and Rizzo all at 5K or more. Contreras is 4,800. You do get some value from the bottom of the lineup, but mostly going to be like a 2-man, 3-man stack. Obviously going to have Schwarber in there at 4,200 leading off. Some righties versus Lester I never mind. So Kane, Braun you could play. Aguilar is dirt cheap. Keston Hiura's had a great year. You could definitely look to him. But mostly the Twins, Indians, just going to really be loading up on those teams. Those are the 2 teams I really like the most on this main slate. But now let's go ahead and talk about some BVP real quick before we end the video. So a couple BVP plays that really stand out. Wilson Contreras gone 7 for 13 with the home run off Chase Anderson. Chris Bryant 7 for 23 with 3 home runs off of Anderson. Daniel Murphy 7 for 15 with the home run off of Descalfani. Nelson Cruz, pretty good BVP off of Nova, 5 for 14 with 2 home runs. Jonathan Scope 6 for 16 with 2 home runs as well. And then lastly, Jorge Soler's gone 7 for 11 off of Mike Clevenger. So those are just a couple of BVP plays for this main slate, guys. I think that is it for the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video and hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you click that like button down below and make sure you subscribe if you have not already. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Or like always, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT if you do have any questions. But yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching and good luck on this Saturday night slate. Peace.